the college football playoffs, right? And so everyone's been like, oh my gosh, Ohio State's supposed to get in. Oh my gosh, no, Alabama's supposed to get in. Oh, but Ohio State lost by 30, but Alabama played nobody on their schedule. It's really, really simple. Really, really simple why Alabama made it into the college football playoff instead of Ohio State. And I don't even know why it actually became like this huge debate, because in my head, I was like, I think a lot more with common sense than I think a lot of people do, right? Really quick to recap before I get in here to my segment, because I'm going to go off. Clemson, Oklahoma, Georgia, Alabama, right? Those are the top four. Ohio State finished fifth. Duh. Let me start this by saying I believe Ohio State should have been in the top four. I think Ohio State played better teams. I think they had a tougher schedule. I think they had a more compelling schedule. I think they have better players. I'm a firm believer in I want the best. I don't necessarily care about this team being 11-1 or this team being 12-1 or this team being undefeated or this team. I go by who I think are actually the four best teams in the country. Simple as that. Which is why I was not big on Wisconsin. Didn't think they were one of the four best teams. Didn't even for a second think they were one of the four best teams. I think USC had a great year. I don't think USC was ever one of the four best teams. I don't think Penn State, despite how great Saquon Barkley started, was one of the four best teams. I did, however, think Ohio State was. I didn't think Alabama was. Sorry. I just didn't. Not sorry. But you know why Alabama got in there and it wasn't Ohio State? We've had a lot of tension in America the last year and a half. And one of the things that people have kind of joked about is, you know, we kind of play on old expressions and old sayings. The South will rise again. And it did. It just happened to rise again in college football. Think about it. Let's look at your Final Four teams. Clemson from the South. Oklahoma, Midwest. Georgia, South. Alabama, South. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? Now let's be very clear here. These teams that are in the top four, it's a very fair argument to make that they only lost one game apiece. And that's a convincing argument. But UCF didn't lose a single game, was ranked 12th. Oh, why was that? Because they didn't play anybody. They had a weak schedule. And their conference wasn't legitimate enough to justify going undefeated. You know what Alabama did? Didn't play a really tough schedule. Didn't even win their conference. Shouldn't justify being in there. But when you switch the system over from the BCS, which is a computerized system, to the new system, which I think most people would say is better, except for the fact of now that it's people-based, you add in biases. Oh, and guess what you get to be really biased about when you are a Southern voter? A lot of these places don't have a whole lot of pro football, pro teams. They don't have a whole lot of pro action. College football is all they got. I have grandparents who live in Alabama, and they do nothing except watch Alabama football. And the Atlanta Hawks, but that's a different story. Of course Alabama's going to get in there, because you get for those voters, it's a much bigger deal that Alabama's in that. That's more publicity than Alabama being in a bowl game. That's more publicity than Alabama being in just another game. You get possibly two games because you get the semifinals and then the championship game. More revenue. More things to do in Alabama because there's not a whole lot to do in Alabama. Ohio State has the Cleveland Browns. Okay, we'll discount that. The Cavaliers and LeBron. The Cleveland Indians. There's more to do sports-wise in Ohio than there is in Alabama. How many professional teams from the South are really that big right now? Think about it. I'm going to give you about 5 seconds. Really think about what team in the South professionally is more popular and creates more traction than Alabama football. Could you think of one? No, I get it. I'm completely wrong, and I'm making a very biased report because I'm on the West Coast. I can't understand how great some of those sports teams in the South are. You know, like the Charlotte Hornets. Whose most famous person is their owner? You're right. Forgot that one. The Carolina Panthers, Atlanta Falcons, and New Orleans Saints. They're from the South, the NFC South. How can I put them in? The Panthers are a possible playoff team. The Falcons are a game out of the playoffs. The Saints are having this great season. And attendance still sucks for all three. The Pelicans are your favorite team. How can you say there's no great sports teams in the South? Yeah, I like the Pelicans. Have you seen their games? There's no one in those seats. No one at all. They have continuously, I think they're the 28th attendance team in the league this year. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not trying to claim that number, but I know they're bottom 5. USC is in California. There's a million things to do in California. Wisconsin. There's a much, and for those really quick, I gotta state this. For Wisconsin, don't even try to compare Wisconsin to the Green Bay Packers, because the Green Bay Packers might be the most loved franchise in all the sports. Like they gravitate and respond to the Packers, that fan base, probably as good as any fan base in professional sports. I mean, hell, they're owned by the fans. They have no owner. Who else on this list? Auburn's in the SEC. They're a Southern team. Penn State kind of knocked themselves out. Washington did. So did Miami. The fact is, guys, when you have voters and you want to get away from the BCS, which I'm not defending the BCS, I'm simply stating when you want to get away from the BCS and you're going to give it up to people, people have their biases. This is why the Hall of Fame voting is bullshit in multiple sports. This is why there's guys like T.O. and Randy Moss who won't be first ballot Hall of Famers despite having every right and should be. This is why Ken Griffey Jr. has 99.8%, not 100%. Baseball has no 100% Hall of Fame guy. And that's stupid. And that's bias, because voters want to have these little things that make them feel special. And, you know, I think my favorite thing really quick to end here on the voter part, and really just to end this whole segment up, the Baseball Writers of America is still called the BBWAA. Guys, baseball's no longer 2 words. If you heard or saw anything that you liked, please give it a thumbs up. And if you think that I'm interesting, like my opinion, or like the video, don't forget to subscribe for more content. I want to see you back here on the channel. You want to see you back here on the channel. So let's make it happen.